And guess who's winning? Nice cock.
This morning we went and we did something that I've been looking forward to doing for years, and it is visiting an island called Gunkanjima.
Well, we almost got to visit it.
We got as close as we can get right now, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. But first I was going to just kind of explain what Gunkanjima is, and it
means Battleship Island.
Yeah, which is like the coolest name ever, and you find out why it's called Battleship Island when you get close to it and you see that. Am I looking at a ship or am I looking at an island?
Yeah, you were asking someone that.
Yeah, what is there in the distance? What is that? And it's an island. It's not a battleship, but it certainly does look like one. And the reason it looks like one is tied into the history of it. Just as when we went on the road trip in Nagasaki and we went to that island that did coal mining, this is another one of those islands that did coal mining. So I guess off the coast of Nagasaki here, there's a lot of coal in the ground. And this has got a huge buildup of buildings on it that are there to support the infrastructure of people that was needed to do the coal mining.
And was once one of the most densely populated area. I remember reading that.
In at least Japan, but maybe in the world.
It might have been in the world. Most densely populated. We're talking like 5,300 people, and then at one point it just became abandoned.
Yeah,
so it was so densely populated at one point, and now you're looking at it and there's nothing.
They closed the mine at the beginning of a year, I think in 1974. It was in the mid 70s, and by April the place was completely empty. So like they all just pieced out.
I mean
there's nothing. There's no reason to be there. It looks like living there would probably be like living in hell. But they did mining from the early 1900s, and they did it up through the 70s. And I was a little unclear. I've seen two different sources of why it stopped. One says that they just ran out of coal. And the other reason that I saw was the similar reason the other place stopped mining is that the labor costs were too high. But I'm not really 100% clear on that.
They gave me coal. There's still coal in there.
Yeah, they did. They gave me a little bag of coal.
They gave me like a little omiyage that has coal. I'm giving it to people for Christmas.
Is that what you... They did. Christmas was like 2 days ago. You got coal for Christmas, baby.
I'm so excited.
So the island in itself actually was completely an entire little town, like stuffed onto this tiny little chunk of land.
People on people and massive workloads.
There were apartment buildings, and there was like hospital facilities. There were schools. There was a junior high school.
I think I saw a church in the little miniature. Like it was a full-on you can live here, but very compactly.
Yes, and there are tunnels that run underneath of the island, underneath of the water, and at one point you can go all the way over to another small island under these tunnels, and they go like a kilometer down. And of course, it would have been dark working down there, mining coal, which is, not like known as a really fun occupation. But they also mentioned that in this specific mine, it would have been 30 degrees Celsius and 95% humidity.
Yeah.
Like at all
when
times.
You told me that, I was like, that's just working in a sauna.
Yeah, it's like working in a sauna. It would be really horrible. And they were talking about like 8-hour round trips just to get down and back from the end of the tunnel and stuff to go to work, like 8-hour commute. What? How does this even work? You know what I mean? But
I really can't figure out how that works.
The island is really cool, and I was always looking forward to going out to it. However, a couple of months ago, a typhoon came through this area and destroyed the dock. And now the tour boats that go out there, they can't dock to it.
They showed us pictures of the waves hitting the island. They were just as high as some of the buildings. It was crazy looking.
And that is
at first we were upset because we thought like, oh, we're gonna get to the island and you're not gonna take us on there and you're telling us that the weather's not very good. Freaking looks amazing to me. And then we put it together once we got there that the dock is just gone.
Look on their website, it's like, because of this typhoon that happened 2 months ago, we can't dock. And I was like, why? It didn't really explain it all the way. And then when we put it all together, we're like, oh, the dock is completely gone.
So nobody can get on there. And that's a shame, I think.
They go around, it is a shame, but hopefully they'll just fix it up eventually.
Yeah.
And I mean, what can you do about weather, right? So they take you out there and you go around the island, and it is pretty cool. They get you fairly close, and you can see a good chunk of what there is to see from the coastline or whatever.
Yeah.
And the whole island is built up with a seawall, and then these huge concrete buildings that are just put up, and it looks like a prison, or looks like something very...
It looks like an area where they would ward off people.
Yeah, and that kind of takes me into another thing I was going to mention. There was a pretty dark time period during the pre-war and during the wartime period where they had brought in a lot of like Koreans and I believe some Chinese people, and they were essentially slave labor. So a little island looks like hell, and for some people I think it totally was like hell. So
I
there's
don't disagree with
there's
that.
some definitely dark aspects of that place. But yeah, I mean, I would love to have gotten a chance to go and check it out. But you know,
Step on the island,
step
be
on the
in
island,
the situation.
I want to know what it was like to look up at these buildings and like kind of feel like, wow, we're in this thing, you know. But I mean, if there's no dock, you can only get but so far.
I can't swim that well.
Yeah. So, any other final thoughts of the little tour we went on?
I'm glad we went. I had fun on the boat.
Yeah, it was cool. The boat ride was cool too. The tour guide like tells you about all this like stuff in the bay and stuff of Nagasaki, and they take you over to another little island on the way back, and they show you a miniature of the Battleship Island, and you can kind of get a better idea of what it looked like when it was operating. And they explain things like how there was no plants at all on the island. So the people that lived there would put plants on the roofs of the buildings and stuff just so they could have a little bit of greenery.
Oh yeah, they're doing that now. We've built up so much concrete that buildings, I read about greenifying places. So that's not a surprise to me at all.
Oh, and you mentioned that the Mitsubishi guy, right?
Yeah.
Mitsubishi, the company Mitsubishi was founded around, maybe not specifically that island, but another island around there.
It was the Takashima Island mine, or like the coal mine there.
Yeah, and
that's what started Mitsubishi.
Mitsubishi came from a coal mine. I didn't know that. And now they make like toilets and stuff.
Yeah. We learned a lot today.
As you get closer to Gunkanjima, you realize there's no way a boat could be quite that big, even though from the distance it really does look like a battleship, but there are boats that are getting that big and probably larger. This thing that's behind us just happens to be here in Nagasaki, and it's 333 meters long, and Gunkanjima is 480 meters long. So like, I mean, that thing's floating, and it's almost like if it was next to Gunkanjima, it's essentially in the same class. And it can hold like 4,000-ish people. So Gunkanjima had over 5,000 people.
Are you ready for lunch? We've come to a place that was actually recommended by a friend of a friend, and it's to eat something called toruko. And we've never had this, never seen it. The basics of it are some sort of meat on top, then a pilaf rice, so not like a white rice, like a seasoned, exciting type of rice, and then on the other side you'll have a pasta of some sort, a little bit of salad, and also some potato salad. But every shop that sells this type of dish in Nagasaki has their own little blend on it. And I think that if we were going to stay here for a long time, we would be going to shop. And I'm planning on having this for lunch again tomorrow at a different place because this just looks so exciting and fun. I got the hamburg. Eric got the chicken cuts. It might even... And that's where the mic crapped out.
So what happened here is that while we're recording, we think what has happened is that the cable that's on the side of the camera that plugs into the microphone has come out just a teeny tiny little bit, and we lost a bunch of audio.
The sound of it sounds like this, so if you wanted to like get a good recap, it goes like this.
It's just
The
static.
entire lunch that we recorded just sounds like a snowstorm on your television set.
And we don't have a way of like monitoring audio while we're recording like you would if you were like a professional person with like a boom stuff. And so we didn't notice that this was happening until the next day when we just happened to listen back to some of the footage and you were like, uh-oh. And like it was kind of like a hugely catastrophic moment because that's like our nightmare scenario is losing.
Yes.
Like, we're sitting here thinking like all the footage for the whole trip is gone because the microphone has had a problem.
And you're standing on the street when you figure this out, and you start going back on the
snowing on
camera. You start going back on the camera, looking at old files, and you're like, that one's fucked, oh no. And then, yeah, it starts to mentally snowball to where you think this is a huge disaster, but you don't really know.
You don't know how big of a disaster. So we
Yeah.
ended up in a 7-Eleven, like looking over some of the footage that I had.
That was a Family Mart. Give that Family Mart props because it had a second floor with a seated warm area for us to freak out.
So we realized that we did lose a bunch of footage that we can't just go reshoot things. That's not like what our thing is. We can't just like we don't do second takes.
I don't want to go back into this restaurant, this lekker restaurant.
Pretend that we didn't have it or
yeah,
something.
and
like,
sit
what
there
is
and
that?
recap it. But right now we're gonna recap that.
We're gonna recap. Well, we're gonna talk about what happened, and we have all that footage. The video worked, so I can overlay things. And we actually lost a couple of things that happened during that day. And from what I know now is that we only lost stuff during that day. Hopefully, I don't go back and check, and we've been losing stuff over like weeks now. But we think we've only got that day. So right now we're just gonna shoot some video and talk about the stuff we lost. And then sometimes some of the stuff works, like in between the shots, like the cable had wiggled or something, and those shots are great. So we'll be able to just drop those in too. So hopefully everybody's up to speed and this all makes a little bit of sense about what's going on with the technical issue. So we got to that point where you were eating and then like you kept eating and kept talking, but we have no audio. Do you have any like thing to talk about with the food?
That rice was a little bit spicy, and I remember that the noodles they looked like they were really, really dry, but when you ate them, they were just, there was the perfect amount of sauce that needed to be on them to give them flavor. The hamburg was out of sight. That was one of the best hamburgs I've had, and I was saying in the video, and I still feel it right now, I'm a big fan of the hamburg right now. And I think hamburg is one of those things that you don't really fall in love with until like
it takes a while.
It takes a very
when you
long
first come
time.
to Japan, you're like, hamburg? What is this?
Why
what
would
is
I
this?
eat that?
Why is this?
But
Where's
it's like
the bun?
it's like meatloaf with a crust.
Yeah,
I don't know.
meatloaf.
It's like it's quite good, and I'm pretty into it right now. And the potato salad, I wouldn't say that there was something special about it, but there was also a little salad next to it.
It was nice it was there.
It was good. And we talk more about that in the next video.
And we'll just roll that right now.
Eric, my foot. Dang it.
You can go ahead.
It's not as spontaneous anymore now that we're recording again.
I never stopped. It's still going.
My food was great.
It was really good. So my meat was actually, it was definitely tonkatsu. We hadn't been into it yet. And I'm really happy because after the disaster of food that we had yesterday for lunch, and I was like, that was one of the worst meals I've had in Japan.
My taste buds have been revived.
Yeah. We busted back up in there, and that was a much better experience. So maybe we should stick with that stuff.
Toruko every day for the rest of my life.
Something else I found interesting about it is it's a cool dish because it's sort of I've never seen it anywhere else in Japan. And that's rare that you come across a dish that you've never even seen someplace or even heard about. And I think it's another one of those things that just touches into like Nagasaki's cultural like diversity. And the fact that they have so much like influence from different places and stuff. And I think that's just another place that's like just shining on that. It's pretty cool.
I'm delighted about it. The audio during this amazing coffee got messed up, but you can still hear me. That guy's mustache is amazing, and it caught my eye in a magazine, and I thought to myself, I know that mustache. And at first I thought it was the guy on the 1,000 yen bill. It is not the guy on the 1,000 yen bill. It's actually the guy we were just talking about, the founder of Mitsubishi, Iwasaki-san. And I actually read things for Mitsubishi, and I've been seeing this mustache for many years over, reading the same project many times as it's changed over the years. But me and this mustache have a history, and I am going to drink it now. I didn't think that was going to be something that happened in my life. But let's see. His hair tastes dark.
Still continuing to have microphone problems, we went to dinner. And what we had was a meal called lemon steaky. And this is something that we are under the impression is a Nagasaki specialty. And what they do is they will take a piece of steak and they will put it on top of lemon and then put it on top of like a yakitori grill and then cook it that way. And he uses like a fan and stuff to like, you know, do the yakitori thing.
I wonder if just because that shop was a yakitori shop, that's how he went about it.
Perhaps.
I wonder if all lemon steaky is done like that or if just that guy's place was like that.
And the lemon steaky had more of a American steak vibe than a Japanese steak vibe. It's hard to quite explain what it is. Maybe
Is the word you're looking for Angus? That's what you're looking for.
It had something to do with the type of meat, of course, and it all had something to do with the thickness of the cut and the way it had been seasoned and everything. It wasn't the same thing that you would normally get at a Japanese like steak place. They definitely weren't using like a Wagyu style of beef that had marbled beef. It was more of just like a normal, like, you know, if you're in the States and you go to like, you know, a steak shack or something. What are those places called? Like Longhorn or something? What's that place?
Longhorn, Lone Star.
Lone Star, yeah. You go to a Lone Star and you get a steak.
Or Outback.
That's more in the direction, except for the fact that the grill and the lemon kind of like come over it, and you get to put the lemon on top of the steak and everything, and it really complemented the seasoning and everything that they had on top of it. So it was like a really good thing. And then we actually had tried to find a lemon steaky place a few times, and it just hadn't worked out. And this was like the last chance we had for it. So
yes,
we were really happy.
The restaurant that we ended up at, the one that you're seeing us at, we went there the night before, walked 30 minutes across the city to get there to have dinner, and we get there, they're closed. So
next day we called.
We called before going for this evening that we went there, and they had lemon steaky and they were ready for us. So
and they also had a lemon alcohol drink. In addition to the lemon steak, they've also got some homemade lemon alcohol that they make, kind of like an umeshu or something like that, where they just like, you know, put it in with some sugar and some booze and let it simmer.
Put lemons on your lemons?
I'm putting
on
lemons
your lemons
on, yeah.
On your steak that's on lemons.
It tastes like, it tastes like Zima. This is a great shot of you. Just getting down, man. Just getting down on that cow. I almost called it a pig. This is a strong Zima.
While we were waiting for our lemon steaky, I ended up getting to play with this cow puzzle. Like, you just drop it out, and it's like all the intestines and muscle groups.
It's labeled like pieces of meat or whatever. It teaches you like a butcher, what a butcher would know about the inside of a cow.
And you take the cow apart and you can put it back together. It's very weird. One of the coolest puzzles I've ever seen. We think this is the last piece of audio that got messed up, and we're hoping that it's the last piece of audio that got messed up.
Forever.
And I'm pretty pissed about this one because I feel like it was audio that I did that was just like, it was going to be perfect for that moment. And
the right amount of grump was coming out.
The right amount of grump was coming out of that situation. It was so just on the point. But the point of it was to show you the hotel that we were staying in that's a little bit outside of Nagasaki. It's about a 20-minute bus ride. And you get there and it seems like a pretty, like, kind of a hip place. And then you go to your room, and your room, we'll get to that in a moment, is nice. And then you go to the bathroom. And the bathroom is a whole different world.
It's literally on a different world.
You literally have to walk from your room. It's almost like a full 2 minutes.
The thing is it's not only it feels like it's a long way, there's nothing there. You walk down this hallway that just goes and goes and goes and goes, and there's like no lights.
The only thing that's there is like your imaginary icebergs. Because there's no heat in this hallway whatsoever.
I mean, and you go up this set of stairs, and they're like, don't step on this step. Like, you might fall through the floor.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
What's strange to me is that you're walking down this hallway, and it's just getting colder and colder and colder, and you're going somewhere to take a bath. You're going somewhere to nude up so that you can take a bath. So that's basically the hallway. The hallway is just an introduction to... This doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. So every time I had to walk down that hallway, I was just like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this.
And it's the only place to get hot water.
Only place to get hot water.
Yeah.
So if you want to wash your face or wash your hands with hot water, you have to go back to this room. So that's the hallway. Once you get into the room where you change, there is a heating element in there, and I would say it's in the teens. The hallway is in the single digits. So all the nips are just boom in this room. All the nips are just woo. So you have to change in that room, and that room is totally fine. I would say there's nothing wrong with that room, except for it's a little bit cold for where you're going to be changing.
And it's typical Japanese, like, onsen style thing, where you change in a big
Mm-hmm.
room, and then there's some sinks and stuff in there for, like, brushing your teeth or whatever, and mirrors and things like that.
And then you open the door to my most hated part. I can't tell if I hate the hallway more. No, I hate the bath. I hate the bath more because I have to stand in there naked. If I had to stand in the hallway naked, I might also hate that as much. But the bathroom, it's just horrible to me. You have these 3 little chairs, 3 little shower areas that are crowded together. It doesn't seem comfortable when they could be a little more spread apart. Then you have this tiny, tiny bath that is only on for 4 hours a day. It's only on for 4 hours a day, and it's like the way you would get really, really warm in this cold area. And there's no like heating element in the bathroom. The heating element is the shower. So if the shower hasn't been on in a little while, that room is cold.
And it's got huge windows and stuff that kind of like, you can't see out of them.
There's a gigantic window.
Yeah, big glass thing, so the cold air is just like flowing through this room.
Yes. And then you get to the ceiling. So you pan up to the ceiling, and it's just covered in this onsen funk. And I am just utterly grossed out by this. Utterly grossed out. And I don't know how many times this ceiling dripped on me.
It's really gross.
And it just, I can feel the cringe in my mind. It's gross. The whole thing was just gross. And every moment that I was in that shower, I was just hoping that I was going to get out of that shower soon. Ugh.
To walk back down the hallway.
I gotta walk. Well, at least at that point, hopefully I've warmed up.
That's true.
Yeah,
that is true.
I turn on the shower blazing hot. Totally naked, getting ready to get in the shower. Guess who doesn't have a towel? Yeah, Eric, I know you're laughing. Yeah, I paid money, extra money for that towel. And it's just sitting in the room doing nothing. Oh, I'm aggravated. I ended up having to use a t-shirt. Because I wasn't going to brave the Arctic tundra tunnel going back to the room and then coming back to the shower. I was just like, I'm getting it over with, I'm done. So I am showered. And I just finished. And I'm going to get in my bed and warm it up because the room isn't really that warm. I really like this place, can you tell? I don't think it's that bad, but I wonder what's the next hotel going to be like. And so you might be wondering, if you really didn't like this so much, why did you go there?
What sold you on this place? How did we end up here?
What sold me on this place? Well, one, they didn't show the ceiling to the onsen on the website. And two, the room is incredible. I remember the first night that we walked in, you could see the moon just right across the water. It felt like it was walking right into our room, and we both just went, whoa, that's amazing.
The room has got these giant windows that could use a scrub, but they're still functional enough that you can see outside over the bay. And the water, I mean, it's like crazy that you have an oceanfront view like this.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
The windows are taller than me. It was just incredible, and the sunrise is on that side. So we got to see 3 sunrises while we were there. I think one of them was spectacular. Christmas morning was quite good.
Yeah.
The other ones were kind of just like, yeah, the sun's coming up, but they weren't anything like, whoa.
But yeah, that's what you saw that view on like, the website or whatever, and you were like, yes, that's
and
what
I was like, okay, we're gonna stay there.
It brings up an interesting situation where sometimes you see something and it's like, that is so cool, and it sells you on something, and like you lose logic, I think, sometimes on like, should you stay in a place or not, or
this was the MySpace angles of this hotel. They MySpace angled out all that like fugly.
And we were like,
it's
worth the 20-minute bus ride into the city. It's, you know what I mean?
It's
and
worth the extra.
We didn't know that the onsen and stuff was going to be like gnarlier or anything, but it's like a carrot on a stick or something. Like you're like, oh, I got to get the carrot. Got to look how nice that view is. And so in the end, do you think it was worth it?
I think that if I had played that the way that it should have been played, less nights should have been spent there. Like maybe one night, but then you're gambling. Like, we didn't even know the sun rise there, so sure. I guess we would have been gambling on whether we would have gotten to see something amazing out the window, but I think I would have stayed there for one night. If I could go back and change it, I would have stayed there one night.
If you stay there one night, you can shower the morning before you get there and the night after you leave, and the whole time in the middle you don't have to use the shower. So there you go, one night. That's perfect for this place.
Yeah, one night at that hotel. That would have been sufficient. I felt that it would be a good idea to give my real emotions. It's the last time I'm doing this, instead of like tomorrow morning when I come in here and brush my teeth and know I never have to go in there again. Right now I'm just like, I gotta get this over with. That's how I feel about it. It's not clean enough for me. It really is grossing me out, and I gotta get naked and go in there. And then someone else might come in there that I don't know. That was a creepy noise. And then I'm gonna be standing in the grimy, weird, uncomfortable place with a stranger. It's a lot, but I'm gonna get it over with.
It's been winter here the whole time we've been down in Nagasaki, and it's been kind of cold, but it's been like fairly okay. Like, it hasn't been like frigid. Today it has gotten pretty cold, and we're in like the southern part of Japan, so we were not really that sure on what level of cold we'd be dealing with. But it is actually snowing. Like, these, you know, the teeniest, tiniest little snowflakes are falling. So that gives everybody a gauge on like the fact that it's a bit brisk, and Kyde has had it up as a result.
Yeah, it's important to keep your ears warm. And
No. I disagree. It's important to look fresh. That's why you got. That's why you got to keep them out.
I'm keeping them in. I'm an innie. So it was at this point about an hour ago when we realized our audio was screwed. So the surprise of what's about to happen has already been done for me, but you'll still be surprised by what Eric has found and what he's been excited to show me and you for a while. Okay, so he's taken me to this weird corner with a bunch of strange vending machines. This first one just has a bunch of like panties and random boob things. In the video that we shot, I did purchase said boob. Turned out to be chocolate. It was not delicious chocolate, it was just like eating wax. So I'd say that's a fake boob. Boobs are really made of chocolate, real chocolate. So that's this vending machine, and then there's this weird guy over here that just looks like a Mayan guy. And Eric was telling me about these being poison wishes. Or not wishes, fortunes. And it seems like all of these vending machines are different kinds of fortunes that you can get. So it's kind of like if you went to a temple, it's almost like you're at a vending machine temple. We don't know.
With boobs. With a boob temple.
Boobs and panties and stuff. And then this guy seems to be very popular. I don't know where he came from, what he means or anything like that. These are the fortunes that other people have gotten. You open them, you read it, and you put it up here on the wall. We have a fortune that came with our chocolate boob. I haven't read it yet, but it's going to take a lot longer to read it than I can stand in the cold. So we're saving that for later. And this is perverse. They're just like dangly things to put on your phone. And it does say that they come with one of those like little wishes, or what do I keep calling them, wishes? Fortunes. Then we hit the fortune cookies. This is kind of surprising because fortune cookies is not something that happens here. You can get them if you go to maybe Chinatown in Yokohama, around where we live, but yeah. So we bought one. But again, reading and understanding this is going to take a little bit longer than I've got tolerance for the cold. And I still don't understand what this is. It's just like wishes that you wouldn't hang up anywhere.
Yeah.
Like these are like wish plaques. Oh, we're gonna buy some panties. I'm bored of these machines. Get the panties. Now these panties cost 300 yen.
Well, you can get the yellow ones for 200 yen or the red ones for 300 yen. And
ones?
somebody mentioned online, because I posted this on Instagram, somebody was like, if I know anything about red, that means those are warm. Because like vending machines, you know, the red drinks.
All right. And they're warm in there for the old ladies.
Maybe.
That's what they call. Okay. I'm gonna. Nope. A little disappointing. It really is panties, like no joke.
Ladies.
What the fuck? Ladies shorts. Oh, it's M size. I don't know if it's gonna fit.
It might fit me.
Well, we're gonna put them on you. They're kind of see-through, or it's just like really bad fabric. Either way, sexy.
You know what? These would match your hat.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna be looking good later. Okay, well, I have now bought panties from a vending machine. I did not think that's where today was going.
So a thing that always happens whenever I go back to the States or whatever is people are always like, so you ever buy any panties from a vending machine? And it's like, no, that doesn't happen. Like, it really never ever happens, except for now. And we've been here for 7 years. It's the first time I've ever seen this. But to kind of drill in a little bit, the fact that this is like a special and like kind of quirky thing rather than like, you know, your normal panty vending machines, which don't actually exist. This is showing like that some famous people have been here, like these TV people, and all these TV stations have filmed here, like, because it's like out of the ordinary. This is not usual. And there was one other thing that I wanted to do, and it's over here, so we're gonna go back over to the other area. And when we were filming before, when the audio didn't work, it was a surprise for Katie. But I didn't do it, so it can be a surprise for me now. And if you come back down to this end, there are these two places here, and it says to put your left hand here and your right hand here, and then another person can flip these up and then push both buttons, and then something happens. So can you manage all that?
Okay, I gotta push both?
Yeah, I think so.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Oh shit! It's actually a shock! Yeah, that'll light you up. You know what's really weird, and maybe it's because of all the panties and everything that happened? I feel like I felt it in my nipples. We came in this little Kasuta shop, and we were gonna just get some and roll and then have it later.
Yeah, like I was like, okay, we're gonna get it and we'll eat it later, and now we've walked in and
she walks over and she's like, oh, this is sabasu. This is like free.
Wait, what?
So
what?
They gave us these little teas, and they gave us an original flavor and a chocolate flavor. And what kasutera is it's just like a little cake that is, I'm assuming based on the name, maybe it's like Portuguese or something like that, but that's completely a shot in the dark. But it seems like it's got a pretty strong European influence, and it is something that's famous in Nagasaki here. So we're gonna use our little, which direction do I use this little poker with? How do I use this?
I think, I don't know. I assume since it was in the holder like this, this is the part your hand touches.
Okay, so, and these pieces that they gave us are pretty big if you ask me, for just like giving us free.
Oh, I want to try the original.
Free bit. Yeah. So we've got the original, and we've got the chocolatito. And I don't really know how to use this chopstick, single chopstick situation. I'm just gonna go like a monster and use my fingers.
There's some stuff on the bottom.
Oh yeah, like little bits.
It's sugar. I never thought about putting sugar on the bottom for baking.
I did big chunks of sugar. It's really moist.
Super moist. Holy crap.
That's a really good piece of cake. What kind of cake would you compare that to?
Angel food cake?
Yes, there you go. It's an angel food cake, basically.
But a little more dense, a little more heavy.
And it's not as dry. I feel like it's a little bit wetter than that. And I'm gonna get...
Choco?
Yeah, we're gonna go into Choco Town here. Did you get a bottom or a top?
Oh, this one's top.
How are you doing that? You're just stabbing it? It's actually holding? All right.
It's called skills. Chocolate's not necessary.
No. It's kind of like a powdery chocolate flavor. It's okay.
Yeah, powdery is the right way to say that.
It's okay. The original is really good.
For the original.
And I feel like this is something that I've heard of before, but I've never had this exact dish before. Like, I think I've seen this in Tokyo. Like,
yeah,
I've seen
you're right. I've seen it. I've
but
never seen the name. I've seen the picture, and I've never thought to myself that just looked like any man's cake.
Well, it's this man's cake. It was pretty damn good. But now we're definitely obligated to buy some now, so we're gonna have to go there and pick someone out. I think we're sticking with the original, though, if you ask me.
It's a good point. It was between that and the matcha.
They do have a matcha one as well,
but the chocolate has spoken, man.
Yeah. Who are the Dutch? That's a deep cut from the Seinfelds. But it is true that like that section of the world is so complicated. Whenever I talk about it, I'm like, okay, you got the Netherlands, you got Holland, you got the Dutch. Like, are these the same people? Like, it's all very confusing to somebody who isn't like from that specific region. And it gets even more complicated because, the word Dutch is a word, and then on this map it says Kingdom of the Netherlands, which, okay, that's okay, I understand that. But the Netherlands and the Dutch, okay, that's the same thing. And then in Japanese they call it Oranda, so that's like their transliteration or whatever of Holland. So it's all very, very confusing. So I'm going to try to talk about this, but if somebody is like, well, you know what, you got one of these like little things wrong, or they weren't called the Dutch at that time or something, I apologize. I'm not an expert. But the reason that I'm talking about this place while I'm in Japan is because we're on an island called Dejima in Nagasaki. And this is famous for being an island that was a Dutch trading port. And the reason that it's especially famous is because the story goes that for a couple hundred years, this was the only access to the outside world that Japan had during the Edo period, because the rest of the country had been basically locked down. So the Dutch had like a special permit and an agreement with the Japanese, like, you know, ruling government at the time to be that connection to the outside world. So this was actually a very international place when compared with the rest of Japan. I'm going to tell you a little something that is maybe a little bit contrary to all of what everybody believes about that. I looked into this a little bit more, and there were actually a couple of other places in Japan that were doing trade with Russia and with China at the same time. So this wasn't the only place in Japan, but it was the one that was like the major link with like the far west. So a lot of science and stuff came through here, and they had a lot of cultural influence. We mentioned a lot of that about like things that we've seen when we were in Nagasaki. Different foods and things are a lot more Western influence in their specialities and stuff. And like the little dessert that we just had is another one of those examples where like this is something that's purely European that has come in and they've taken it on as their own. So basically the way this all works is that you've got this little tiny country here, Kingdom of the Netherlands, and we're looking at like the 16 to 1800s that this whole thing was going on. And they had a lot of different outposts. And we're going to go down over here on this giant map, which I love, and all these dots are different places that they had places that they were doing trade and things. And the Dutch East Indies down here, Malaysia and the Indonesia area, had a whole lot going on. They had a big power there. And if you follow this up here, you get up to Japan, and it's one of the most northern areas. And this is where we're at right now. So this is where they would do trade and things like that. So it was a place that Japan got like spices and technology and like with all those Western influence and stuff. So it's on this little chunk of land that's in the Bay of Nagasaki, and it isn't a very big area. And from my understanding is that during certain times of that time period, the Dutch people were basically allowed on this little island, and that's it. So there's a lot of history that's tied into all that around this little area, and nowadays it's kind of been like reconstructed like Colonial Williamsburg or something like that. So we're going to walk around a little bit and see what they've got to offer here. And we've already come across some dudes in some like old school types of uniforms and stuff, kind of like Colonial Williamsburg. And there's some buildings out there and stuff that look like they might fit the time period.
I really thought I was going to have a zinger with this Asian Williamsburg, but you just ruined it for me. I was so excited. The frown on the other side of the camera when you said Colonial Williamsburg was big. It was a massive frown. Yeah, but I expect this just to be Asian Williamsburg, and I've spent a lot of time in Williamsburg on many a family vacation, and I can tell you right now, I don't know how I feel about this.
You better not bring a duck in this hotel room.
I'm planning on, if there's ducks out there, they're coming home with us. I don't know what you're talking about. I am taking a Dejima duck home. Nothing more Scandinavian than some snow.
Is it Scandinavia?
Who are the Dutch?
Here in Dejima, they've got an area where you can just kind of like try to do some of the things that people would have been doing back in the day with the types of tools that they would have had. And in this case, they've got these quill pens, which I've never used before. And it is a little more difficult than one might expect to write with one of these, because I'm not sure if it's just because of how dirty these are because they've been used by public people, but you feel like you have to hold it up really high. And you dip it into some ink. And from there, when you first put it down, I wrote this, or Dejima on this paper, it's like this huge glob because it just pours out. So it's hard to like get the right amount to fall out. And you can see down here, that's where I refilled one more time because it's like this big blob. And then I tried to write my name and the first letter is just a big blob. So quill pens is a challenge, and I'm glad that Bic has come along and improved on this technology.
But look at mine, it looks great.
Yours looks all right, but I can still tell like that was your starting point. You know what I mean? It got a little bit mucky in there. a lot of this little Dejima area is, we nailed it when we said it was like Colonial Williamsburg. It's a lot of little museums, and it seems very, very well done though. Like it's all very clean, there's really good information everywhere.
Yeah, well kept and nice.
There's things that are interactive, like with the quill pen, and like there's like, there's an old school pool table, and they're like, you can play if you want. like it's not all just like a museum piece in that sense. Like it's cool because it's kind of tactile, and you can kind of get a feeling for what it felt like for the people that were living here at the time and stuff. And I like that they let you like drop into that immersion a little bit. They've got a scale model here, and it's called Mini Dejima, and it's a representation of what Dejima was in 1820, and we would be standing somewhere around this region of it. And it's really cool because it makes it a very simple way to understand how it was sort of partitioned away from the rest of Nagasaki, even though it was very close to it. You can see that there is this moat here, and if you turn this way with me, you'll see that there is, well, it's not a moat, but a body of water. It kind of acts as a moat in a sense, if you wanted to call this a castle, but it's the bay. And that body of water is there, and there it is. So like to swim across that would be difficult. So the only access that people would have had to go from here across would be the bridge that you can see down there, or you could alternatively see the bridge right there. This one's just a little smaller.
So apparently this view from Sugar Heaven looks Dutch. There's a lot of storehouses for sugar here, and that's what I've learned here at Dejima. I have to say, this was boring. I didn't complain once while we were walking around. I was just like, making a video, taking a picture.
But you gotta make the quill pen.
But the whole time, I was just like, okay, yeah.
You're not into
Real
it?
Williamsburg. This was hardcore Williamsburg. I'd say like it and Williamsburg, same level, minus ducks here. I haven't met one duck.
Yo, Katie Hayden. So you're saying this is boring and no good, but
there's no guillotines here. I was hoping that was a guillotine.
It's a bell. It was just 500 yen to get in, and it's a very small little area because that's what it was set up as before. And I think it's good. I think this is what I expected. I didn't expect no roller coasters. I expected it to be kind of museum-y, and I expected to kind of get a vibe of what it was like to be here and kind of understand a little bit of the history. And I think it's fascinating to think about the massive difference in cultural, like the cultural wall that would have been between the people that were here from Europe and
East meets West.
Yeah. Like I think that like just if you look around and see that kind of stuff, I think it's fascinating. So I
don't discount it, I guess.
I
discounted it.
What did you expect? What did you expect though? I guess if I was trying
something interesting, and I haven't really found it.
You just wanted a duck.
No, I didn't. You're the one who brought up the duck. I didn't bring up the Dutch. I think the architecture is interesting, and I like looking at the little buildings, but the miniature might have been the best thing.
Let me ask you a question. If it wasn't cold out here right now, would your review have been different?
Yeah, my review of everything would be different depending on weather.
It's pretty chilly.
Weather permitting, my thoughts will be different.
We enjoyed yesterday's Todoko rice so much yesterday. We had to get some more before we left Nagasaki City. And we have come to another place here in town, and we had been under the impression that every different restaurant does a different style of this stuff. And this place does every style of it because they've got a menu that's here, and it's the strangest menu ever because it's got hinges on it. And to get even weirder about it, the inside has got just lists of things by the number, and it's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different variations of this. And the lady that works here has asked me literally not to open this and show you the inside of the menu. I'm not clear why that's so secretive, but like there's a note inside that's like, don't open this. And I asked her, like, is this like a thing? And she's like, yeah, don't open it. You can show the outside, but not the inside. So that's all I can show you about the mysterious menu. And the food will be coming out in just a moment. And we ordered by number, and mine was literally 1003. And when I said it to her, she just popped it off the top of her head. She knew exactly what I had ordered, and she was like, oh, it's this thing, da-da-da-da-da-da, and like said the whole thing. And I was just like, how does she have all this in her mind? What's with the menu? Can
I get a number 403? Yeah, I can. I really don't know where to start. It is such a lot of things on one plate. We'll start with like the meats. There's karaoke, which is like usually, and I don't know if that's what's inside of this one. How about I find out what's inside of this one? Kind of potatoes, and then they're breaded and deep fried. Sometimes it's cream. Yeah, maybe that's cream. So karaoke is kind of like a creamy thing. It's been breaded and they deep fry it. Then I've got my hamburger, which kind of addicted to right now.
What kind of sauce is that? It's like a cheese or something?
It's like a white sauce, but not a cheese. Might be what's inside of the karaoke. No, I think they're different, but just a white cream sauce. Over on here, I have hayashi, which is like Japanese beef stew. Even though they have beef stew here, I don't know how to explain more than that. But like
demi sauce.
Yes and no. They're similar in the fact that they're brown and saucy, but demi is a completely different thing.
Okay.
I don't think. Yeah, that's beef. So we got a lot of meats going on, a lot of sauces going on, and that's not even mentioning what's underneath of it. There's a corn salad. With mine, I'm a little sad, but I somehow ended up with white rice.
You ordered from the 400s. That was your mistake.
Ordered from the 400s. But I might get a bite of Eric's. I'm pretty sure he might share. And what I'm in it for? The pasta. And that is mine. It's such a mountain of food. It's like you've gone to a buffet, but you haven't.
Mine is a little bit different. It has some of the same things as the karaoke, and it has the hamburger, but it also has got an omelet on the top. And specifically, the main difference is the style of rice. And this is a dry curry rice. I think it's pretty spicy. It's really, well, it's attacking me quite a lot. It's not like excessively spicy, but I didn't expect it to be like that at all. Okay, it's getting spicier. It's getting worse. I mean, better, but yeah. Okay, that was a exciting thing. Usually, when Japanese food, like spicy, is not something you run across so often. So I was not like strapped in for spice, you know. So it kind of caught me off guard. My nipples are all right, but so it's not like those buttons, man. And yeah, just the hamburger and stuff. It looks baller. I am definitely willing to trade you some of your white rice for some of this brown rice, though, because I love white rice.
Nipples are just blown out the window. I don't even have nipples anymore. I fucking love this food. I want to eat this every day for the rest of my life. Comments on this situation are that toruko rice would be every day would just be a one-mealer. You don't need to eat anything else. I would come here, eat it for breakfast, and then for the rest of the day, like, work it off.
It would still take you 1,000 days to get through their menu.
Yes, and I would love every day. Another thing about this is my spaghetti tastes basically like SpaghettiOs. And for me, that's fantastic. So nostalgic and wonderful.
We are headed to a boat right now because we're going to get on a boat and go to a little island that we will be, of course, filming about here starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is
that Tsuruko's got me out of breath. I'm just panting going up the hill. I am a porker right now for sure.
So we are ending the time that we're going to be spending in Nagasaki City. The islands that we'll be on are still in Nagasaki Prefecture, but this is the end of the city visit. And I was just going to ask you if you have any thoughts about the city of Nagasaki.
My major thought, which is considering that it's so recent, is that in my food memories, this will be one of those that I would hold someone's hand and transport them to the restaurant that we just went to, or any restaurant, to have toruko for lunch. That has blown my mind. It's really great. What about you?
My biggest takeaway from Nagasaki is that it has a reputation for the atomic bombing. And I think that's what most people end their thoughts on about the city. They're just like, it was the place that was bombed, that's its history. But I think that's really cutting it short. This place to me, especially in Japan, is really fascinating because of this strong Western influence and all like the religious influence and stuff that they had from the West, and how it's a bit of a melting pot. And there's a long history here with Dejima and everything that make the city so much more than just that one moment.
Yeah.
And that is a huge moment, and it's a big part of the history, of course, but I hope that when people come to visit, they don't just go to the Peace Park or the museum. Like, check that stuff out because it's important to see that kind of thing, but also make sure that you have a chance to check out the rest of the city. Like, come into the city and spend some time here. It's totally worth it.
I mean, definitely go to the Dejima, the Dejima Park. It'll blow your mind.
Katie's talking smack again. Come on, y'all.
I had one more thing that I wanted to say. Dude, and be prepared for the traffic lights here. When you're walking around, you will be waiting for like
some reason
an entire minute.
Yeah, it's a really long time, the red light for crossing the street. I don't know what the deal is.
I am so impatient.
But if you just come with a little bit of patience, it's definitely worth checking out Nagasaki. I am very impressed. I like going up on the hill. I like going out to Gunkanjima. Like, everything we've done here has been things that you can't do everywhere else, and has been really, really like spectacular. It's
Except for that meal that we had.
We did have one bad meal.
That meal was terrible.
You're just bringing down all my hype.
Oh, my bad. I had a good time.
It's one of my favorite Japanese cities, I think. It's really cool.
I would totally come back.
Yeah, me too.
The audio during this amazing coffee got messed up, but you can still hear Katie. We'll give it a try.
You could say me.
That's what you were saying to me. You can still hear Katie.
I forget but I'm not Katie.
Yeah, we gotta go 2 streets and then we turn right and walk to the KFC. And the KFC meets the bus, and then the bus meets the hotel.
That Zima's got me wobbly.
It's a good thing I am navigating.
It's like this much Zima. It was like, I'm feeling a little like loose. It's because I haven't had any, now I've had alcohol twice in like a month or 4 months or something or whatever it's been, but yeah.
Did you ever watch the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Yeah.
How loose is your goose? How loose is your goose? Our goose is totally loose. Our goose is totally loose. Yeah, if you don't know that part, then you did not watch that movie well enough.
Can you get the panties out again? It's cool technology.
That's mildly penis.
Not too far from like a very.
Next up, a bit more from some small islands in Nagasaki and then on to Kagoshima. If you liked the video, give it thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed. Thanks to everyone at Patreon for helping us make videos. If you'd like to see more videos, consider joining us there. Links below.